There are 17 paintings and one sculpture. You might look at one Van Gogh or one Picasso painting and think, yes, but those people are masters, but one person was able to make you have an emotional response as if you were in the presence of the actual masterwork. To me, that's the most incredible part of this thing, is to watch people walk out of here, they think to themselves, yeah, but one guy did this.
So the premise for the exhibition is that this fictional museum, the New or Traditional Art Museum, has somehow been able to gather together the 18 most valuable, privately held, lost, or stolen artworks in history for a one-time only exhibition. But when you arrive at the exhibition, it's closed for installation. So it speaks, in my mind, to the cultural, political, and economic forces that all seem to combine to make these works individually unattainable to the general public. Essentially, they're not in museums. So the irony of creating a fake museum to gather them together seemed to be the appropriate context for the work. And so people come in, they reach the front door and they see a sign that says closed for installation. And so they have to broach that sign, enter the space, and then they experience the work.
So you're cast in a role of someone who has power and status. And so I love that people have to wrestle with the idea that I am a person with privilege, and then they're also kept from seeing it unwrapped.
Yeah, and that was always one of our intentions, was to have that push and pull between you belong in this space and you don't belong in this space.
How do you add a conversation onto some of the most compelling pieces ever created by humans? And I think that's part of the brilliance of what you do.
To be able to spend an entire day with a single brushstroke that took that artist a single second and moment in time, you gain an appreciation of the artist's process. And through that, I've gained a massive appreciation of the artists themselves. It has marked the most significant period of my life. My kids were 1.5 when I began this exhibition. Now they're 6 years old. We traversed the pandemic. In a way, these paintings nurtured me and ushered me through that process, and I still have yet to have a personal moment where the enormity of the accomplishment actually washes over me. But at the end of the day, I'm always going to be able to point back to this moment in time as we fucking did it.
What we've done here is counterintuitive to the way that people have been showing art for 300 years. For 300 years, what people have done is basically take a blank gallery and let the artwork be the narrative. And what we did was say, we're going to turn up the dial of the environment, but in doing so, we're going to show you an environment in which it will forever make an indelible mark on how you first witness it. People who I have worked with at the highest levels of the art world have come in to see this and think this will forever change the way in which people conceive of how to present artwork. You would think that putting an environment like this that is telling a theatrical narrative wouldn't help show the work, and in fact, it completely bolsters the experience. And that's kind of the gold of a career, to make a thing that feels so completely well conceived that you kind of change the game.
My favorite people to come into the space are people who just come in off the street and 45 minutes later they're still here. Time has fallen away and they're just in this space experiencing everything. The way I see people interact with my paintings is exactly the same way I've seen them interact with this space. We get people who are really hesitant around the corner because they feel like it's closed, but as soon as they walk in, they take in the breadth of the space. You know, the floors, the wainscoting, the painted walls, everything, and they just breathe it in for a moment. And then they notice there's another detail. There's the QR codes, they start watching the videos, and then they start reading the condition reports. Gradually, as they walk through the space, the artifice starts to crumble a little bit. You know, they notice the flooring is vinyl. It's just a little bit imperfect, and then that combined with the work is in itself kind of, for want of a better word, fake. It just layers the experience. And again, it goes back to that push and pull. Do we really belong? Which calls back to what the work is about.
We're going to wrap you inside of this experience so that you can forget about where you are and be transported into a whole other plane of reality. There is a story in every single square inch, and it's been interesting to see people experience it and not be able to articulate it, but they feel it. We built an entire world, not just in this room, but there's a whole constellation of stuff that continues to sort of bolster this idea of like, wait, is that a real room? Did that really happen?
Given the overall concept of the show being one of access, we wanted to be able to deliver that experience to people all over the world in perpetuity. I'm very fortunate to work with a company called Matterport, who was able to bring in their latest technology to capture this space with this incredible 360 camera.
Obviously, we are the faces of this thing, but we're standing here on the shoulders of 100 other craftspeople, technicians, shops, carpenters, painters, managers, producers. This is a very, very large and ambitious production. And the thing that I'm most proud of is being able to introduce this incredible seminal talent that is my friend to the New York art world. It is an undeniably profound effort that will loom higher and higher and higher in the rankings of extraordinary additions to the art landscape.
People ask, what have you learned throughout this process? There's an undercurrent of insecurity that's run throughout my entire life. And one of my great insecurities is I've always felt somewhat of an imposter as an artist. And so I've spent my entire life trying to solve the problem of how to be an artist. And it was sometime this year that I suddenly realized it is the problem solving that defines me as an artist. And when I realized that, I kind of felt a little more comfortable in my own skin. I have no idea where it's going to go from here, but I'm excited for that journey.